answer the question, why is it in North Africa, in Morocco and Algeria, why does everybody speak French? They're not French. Why do we speak English here? Why in India do people speak British style of English? Why in Indonesia are there Dutch styles of architecture? Why in South America do people speak Portuguese and Spanish and are Catholic, right? So we want to kind of understand, I mean, those start in Europe, how did they spread around the globe? And what impact does that have on all of these religions that we're going to discuss, okay? So this is the Showdown of Cajamarca, and it shows how Europeans came to dominate not only the New World, but as an episode, but also is the dynamic for what happens, the reason that they are able to dominate a lot of parts of culture around the globe. We talked about the spread of peoples in our opening section on the modern world. So around 11,000 BCE, the first human beings crossed the Bering Strait, a land bridge that connects Siberia and Alaska, no longer exists. But human beings, that's the first time human beings sort of come to what we think of as the New World, the North and Central and South America. They slowly make their way down because there's large mammals that have never been hunted before. It gets warmer as they go, so it's kind of easy for them to populate relatively. About 1,000 to 1,300, there's a 300-year period where Vikings colonized Greenland. They are not self-sufficient. They need an ongoing supply line sort of from Iceland. When that falls apart, the farms in Greenland collapse. Okay, so you can go to Greenland today and see where those collapsed farms existed. But for about 300 years, it's the first time there's human beings from Europe that come to today what we think of as the Americas, North America. I don't know about sweet potatoes. I have no idea really what to say about that. How do sweet potatoes get from like Polynesia basically to South America? What, did they float? Like that's an incredible distance. Or like I have no idea how to explain that. All I can really say about that is sweet potatoes are delicious and I'm glad they made it here. Yay. 1492, oh yeah, change this. If you think Chris Columbus is Catholic, good for you. I don't know what to say. I believe he was Jewish. I think there's very good reasons to believe he was Jewish. Spanish Inquisition, he should have birther papers in Italy, markers on the grave, letters, all sorts of stuff. If you believe he's Roman Catholic, though, good for you. Don't care. 40 years later is really the episode that I want to talk about today, though. It's the Spaniard Pizarro meets the Incan emperor. This is an empire. The Incan emperor Atahualpa in modern-day Cajamarca in Peru. Okay? So here's my pictures of Pizarro, who is the general for the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, and Atahualpa, who is the Incan emperor. Okay? You tell me who's going to win this battle. Just the odds makers here, the stats line. Incan army has 80,000 standing man army. The Spaniards show up with 167 and a half dudes. I say a half because one of them's a Spanish friar, and he's not like a fighting man. He's like functionally literate, and he's got a copy of the Bible. So he's not going to be doing a lot of killing, you know what I mean? The Indians are on home turf, right? So at the end of the day, they can go home for a home-cooked meal. The Spaniards show up, and they don't know anything about anything. They just show up, right? So think about it, like, at the end of the day, they got the supplies they brought, the food they brought, that's it. There's not a Denny's that you can go to in this time period and get a grand slam after all the fighting, you know what I mean? Like it's just the food you got. Okay? So these guys have communal support. Their nearest reinforcements are 1,000 miles to the north in Panama, so it's not like they can like call in the cavalry if things get ugly, you know what I mean? Religiously, the Incans, their emperor Atahualpa is considered a sun god. He's a deity. The Spaniards have one guy who's like functionally literate, but he's not like real high up in the chain of Roman Catholic hierarchy. The Incans are battle tested. They've just defeated an enemy army nearby, so they're battle tested. These guys just show up. They don't know anything about the local politics or the local battles or anything. They just show up. Right? They're new to the scene. So you tell me who you think's going to win. Let me put this in perspective, maybe just sort of like the picture this. Remember we talked about football, right? So think about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl usually, ballpark, football park. There's about 80,000 people in the stands, right? Usually that's roughly what it ends up being when they extend the things for the Super Bowl. 80,000 people in the stands. On the field, if you take all of the players from both teams on the sidelines and on the field, plus let's say the officials too, throw them all together, there's roughly 168 of them, right? Which side would you like to be on if you were in this battle? Battle's about to play out. You want to be in the 80,000 with the stands, or you want to be with the 168 guys on the field? How many of you are like, oh, these Incans are about to stomp some Spaniards? Like 4 of you want to be on that side. How many of you are like, yeah, I want to be on the field. I'm sure it'll go fine. Oh, and the rest of you are like, I don't know, it could go either way. Really? Like Vegas odds makers here, come on. Like look at the edge that they've got. At some point in the stands, they could chuck bodies and should be able to win. I don't care what right? I don't care what weapons they've got. They could just like lemming style it, right? And yet some of you are like, no, I think I'm Spaniards. I'm strong on this. Really? Seems strange, right? The odds are totally against them, it seems like. So this is the answer to our third question for today's quiz. The title up here. So if you think of what the Incans have sort of technologically, militarily, social organization, they've got stone weapons, right? Where the Spaniards have guns. And these guns are incredibly inaccurate. They're like if you like the pirate guns, like they don't have threading inside the barrel, so there's no centrifugal force to spin the projectile. So they're incredibly inaccurate weapons. Like here up there, I would totally miss. You know what I mean? But if you've never heard of a gun, let alone heard a gun go off, right? There's going to be a certain element of terror, we'll see. The Incans, this is sort of a one-way dynamic. The Incans don't have immunity to the germs that the Spaniards bring. Now, on a long enough timeline, that's going to have an impact. But in the short term, I mean, think about if you're in the stands versus you're on the field. If you're on the field and you're like, our germ warfare is going to help us. I'll breathe on them. There, that'll say, really? That's not going to help you in the immediate moment, right? So long term, that might have an effect, but short term, it won't. But think about it. It's not like Atahualpa and the Incans ever go to meet the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, right? This is a one-way dynamic for the most part, right? The Incans have clubs. These are stone clubs. Now, they're strong weapons in one sense, but in another sense, if you bash them enough or if you hit them at just the right angle, they will break, right? Whereas the Spaniards have Spanish steel swords. I don't know if any of you have ever seen or used a Spanish steel sword, but they are incredible weapons for their time period. I mean, they will cut through like bone and stuff. They will not bend or break for much of anything. They're incredible weapons for their time. The Incans don't have any reinforcements. The 80,000-man standing army is the army. If it falls, there's no backups. There's no reinforcements. There's no new enlistments. The Spaniards have naval superiority and an advanced administration. At some point, they will be able to get reinforcements. It might take a while, but at some point, their reinforcements from Panama will show up. The other thing is, these guys are battle-tested, but they've just been in a battle, and there's been injuries, right? Some of them have had, limbs lopped off, that kind of stuff. So they're 80,000, but they're not 80,000 strong in the sense of full health, ready to battle. Some of them are injured, right? The Spaniards have just the one, the friar, but Atahualpa is treated as a sun god. And the notion is that he's held on a litter or shoulder carriage, and because he's a sun god, he can't touch the ground, right? And so, as a result, sort of the play of that is the Spaniards end up capturing Atahualpa and holding him for the largest ransom in world history. Okay? So I'll finish this and then I'll illustrate how this goes down. If the Incans had just known some Spaniards for the time period, they would have known not to go along with this, right? But they didn't know. It was the first episode like this interaction. So they basically tell them, all right, no, just give us enough gold to completely fill the hold of our ship, and we'll give you your god back. What a nice guy, what a good deal, So they fill the hold with gold of a room 22 feet by 17 feet by 8 feet, completely full. And then once they get all the gold, they kill Atahualpa, and they're like, there's your god back, bye, right? The Incan Empire immediately goes into collapse. It's basically the end of the empire. the Spaniards become the strongest empire on the globe because they suddenly are rich. They've got a lot of gold to buy new boats, weapons, hire soldiers. And so for the next 125 years, they're the dominant empire on the globe because of this, right? Until the British sort of take over. So the answer of why were the Europeans able to come to dominate most of the globe? Not this is one episode, but this plays out over and over and over again around the globe during the Age of Empires. The Europeans obtained guns and steel and were able to spread their germs around the world in a way that was a one-way interaction. And so as a result, they were able to carry their culture, their clothes, their food, that kind of stuff, their religion, and their languages around the world. And as a result, when we think about why are some of these religions the largest in the world, why does Christianity become the largest religion in the world? In no small part, it's because during the Age of Empires, the Europeans are able to spread their culture and their religions around the globe. And so we'll see that play out. It becomes something of a problem when we talk about things like secularism and different societies that have religious traditions. How do they interact with that if it's a European notion? Is that the only way to organize society in the modern world? And so that's going to be one of the problems we kind of see. So before I move on from this, I'm going to move the screens up. Oops. Let me turn the slide on. Everybody's good with this? So, the reason this plays out, when you think, like, how did the odds play out that way? It seems so strange. Basically what happens is there's something of a town square. We know this from Pizarro's brother, who writes it in his journals in the aftermath. We see the ranks of the Incans form, 80,000 strong. Atahualpa comes on a shoulder carriage or litter to the front. The Spaniards take up positions within this kind of bottled town square, and they send out the friar with a copy of the Bible. The friar hands the Bible up to Atahualpa. Atahualpa's never seen a book, doesn't know what a book is, right? So he takes the Bible, he smells it, he's like, and the friar's like, no, here, let me show you, and opens it for him to see like the words inside. And Atahualpa's like, oh no, you did not just try to touch me, I'm a god. So he takes the Bible and throws it in the dirt. And the friar's like, oh no, you did not just throw the word of God in the dirt. And so he yells out the Spanish battle cry, Santiago! They jump out. They shoot their guns, which are incredibly inaccurate, but Pizarro's brother tells us, if you've never heard of a gun, let alone heard a gun go off, all you see is these people shooting fire from their hands, and what happens to you is, he says, you literally poop yourself. If you poop yourself, if you're suddenly like, oh, you are not going to be as effective of a fighting person, you know what I mean? Like you're suddenly like, oh no, right? There's going to be a way that you are weakened real quick, right? So the Spaniards jump out, they've got these Spanish steel swords, and they start hacking at the guys holding the carriage. The carriage starts to drop, Atahualpa can't touch the ground, right? So when they see that the litter is starting to drop, the men start to funnel in to try and keep the litter up, and the Spaniards just keep hacking. They hack for, Pizarro's brother says, 13 hours. They have to switch arms at some point because they're just like, oh, my arm's getting sore. Switch sides here for a little bit. And then at some point they're like, oh, I've been butchering too long. Tag, you're in. I have to go throw up. Not ready. Just one more. All right, I'm back. And they keep going for 13 hours. Pizarro's brother says by the end of the day, they are in a blood swamp up to their hips. In the evening, as he's writing about it, he says, I don't want to say we've done too much killing in the name of God, but we did a lot of butchering today, right? So if you remember our discussion about what makes the modern world modern, that question of how much killing is enough or too much, that's not a new question, and it's one that will recur over and over and over again, right? So that's sort of the notion of how this comes to be, okay? Any questions?